Hello everybody, welcome. Tomorrow morning, bright and early, I'm going to be heading up the country to Macclesfield. In Macclesfield, there is a Deadly Dozen event, and I've been waiting to get to one of these all year. Now, the Deadly Dozen is a sort of a relatively new hybrid fitness competition this year. I think this is the fourth one, so they're already getting multiple events out, but this is the first one I've been able to actually get to. The event itself is unique for lots of different reasons. The first one is that it's outside, and two, it's on a 400-meter athletics track. So the run elements of this particular hybrid fitness event are 400 meters. The event is structured very much like a lot of hybrid fitness events in that you do a run and an exercise, a run and exercise, and as the name suggests, it's a 12-parter. So there are 12 runs and 12 exercise stations. Now, if you hear me refer to the exercise stations as labours, that's just some vernacular that's been attributed to the exercise stations for this event. They are labours, right? So there are 12 of these, and in between is 400 meters of running. Quite simple, right? So what else makes this event quite unique? Well, the equipment that they use to make up these exercises is one of four bits of kit: a dumbbell, a plate weight, a kettlebell, or your body weight. All 12 exercises will utilize one of those four things, and that is for a few different reasons. One, it allows the equipment to be waterproof. There's no need for like ski ergs or row ergs or anything electrical or mechanical, so it won't get ruined. But two, it makes it portable, so you can pop these events up quite easily at other locations. But we'll talk a little bit about that after the event. Let's talk a little bit about my day tomorrow. I'm going to be going up there. My wave is around 11 o'clock. It looks like there's around 6 people in each wave, released every 6 minutes or so. And that's to allow them to sort of get round and into the first exercise before the next wave is released. These types of events, they're not quite as big and bandstandy as, say, the High Rocks events of the world. They're not big, massive arenas. So we're looking at maybe 100 to 200 people that take part in any one event. I'll have a more accurate sort of readout of that when the results come in after the fact. So I don't really know how to pace this one because I've never done one before, so I will just go out and do my best and set a time, something I can return back to the event later at a different date and try to beat it. That's the best plan I could possibly have at this point in time. I'm going to go and enjoy it. So I don't want to bore you with any more introduction. I will narrate over the top of the race day footage and tell you about each of the various exercise stations as I pass through them. So hang in there, guys. I'm going to hand over to myself, who has now travelled up to Macclesfield, and we'll take it from there. All right. Hi everybody, welcome. We are now at Deadly Dozen up in Macclesfield. I am at the track, I am registered, I am ready to go. Behind me you can see the 8 labour stations. They're all in a row, exactly as we expect. There's 30-meter runs, everything is divisible by 30, so all of the labours have a set distance, however many times we have to go up and down them. The running track has runners on already. The event started a little while ago, so that it's already populated and underway. Like I said in the intro back at the house, I do not know how to pace this particular event, so I'm just going to go into it with an open mind and just try my hardest. A lot of this is stuff I do all of the time, so I'd like to think that I won't suffer too badly, but check that reaction out at the finish. Okay, so this is the part of the video where I talk a little bit about my race day. Don't worry, I'm not going to show you the entire thing, that would be boring, but rather just tell you about each of the respective labour stations using myself as real world context. I'm also going to tell you sort of how it went, where I struggled, and just sort of how I got along as we sort of pushed through all 12 stations. So let's start at the very beginning. The start line, this is at the end of the 100-meter track, well, essentially the start of the 100-meter track, the little sort of leggy bit that sticks out, so you don't get in the way of the people already on the track. You will be in there with a relatively small amount of people, 6 maximum I think it is, 3 boys and 3 girls, but expect that might be reduced even further. And you sort of get a countdown from 30 seconds and then a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and you're away. So you head down the 100-meter track, past all of the labour stations, all the way around the 400 meters and into your first station. Now that run went okay for me. Running has never really been the problem. And so I came around that quite quickly and quite comfortably into the farmer's carry. Now I've always enjoyed the farmer's carry. I've never really needed to put the weights down in high rocks, and certainly at 24 kilos a hand, that's not too bad. So we've got 240 meters to do, and that is 4 out and backs of the 30 meter sort of track. Now what is a little bit weird is that you're doing it on grass, and that feels a little bit unstable. Certainly when you're used to doing this in the gym or doing it at a high rocks event, doing it on grass is suddenly a bit alien. But otherwise okay. Got through those and then headed back out for the next 400 meters. So this second station is the kettlebell deadlift, and this is a 32 kilo kettlebell, and you have to do it 60 times. Now because the range of motion isn't particularly great, you don't have to go that low to touch the kettlebell on the ground. You can get through these really quickly, and that just means pounding that kettlebell on the ground and standing up as fast as you can. You get through 60 really quite quickly. And because it's not using your legs really, not a lot, you can get back out on the track still relatively fresh and still relatively quick. So coming in after run 3 into labour station 3, which is the dumbbell lunges. So it's 60 meters and it is 12.5 kilograms per hand. So that's 25 kilos total. So that makes it a little bit heavier overall than it would at a high rocks event. So it was 1 run out and 1 run back of the 30 meter run. Now this is one of my weaknesses, and I struggled a little bit on here for a couple of different reasons. One, I've just come off the back of a ultramarathon, so my legs are a little bit tired and I really felt it on this one. And 2, I went into it with my Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 shoes on, which is a high stack super shoe. Because of the uneven ground on the grass, I didn't feel very stable planting my forefoot with each of the reps. In the end, I had to sort of slow it down so I didn't wobble as much, and it was at this point I started to see the other 2 chaps in my wave starting to sort of get away from me and then into the distance. But I muddled through and got out onto run 4. So coming into labour 4, this is the dumbbell snatch. So you have a dumbbell, a 15 kilo dumbbell for the chaps, and it's alternating arms. So you go up with one arm, you can then swap to the other hand as it descends, touch the ground, and then back up for the next rep. And it's 60 of these, 30 per arm. These are quite a sort of a rapid movement, and I didn't really struggle with these. I actually quite enjoy this movement, and because it's not overly taxed on your legs, you are sort of thankful for that. And this one was over pretty quick, uneventful really, and out into run 5. So coming in off run 5, we're going into labour station 5, which is the burpees. Now if you've ever seen any of my high rocks videos, you'll understand that I have such a detest for burpees. I'm just rubbish at them, rubbish. It doesn't matter how many I do in the gym, doesn't matter how I train, doesn't matter what I do, I just blow up on the burpees every single time. And this time was no different. So you're coming in after your run, you're already gassed a little bit from what you've done, from the second you place your chest on the ground at that very first rep, you know you're in for a bit of pain, but you have to get on with it. So I was trying to do the step up. Again, this feels weird when you're on the grass because you've got your face literally in the grass. But you sort of, you grizzle through those reps, you do the first 30, you turn around and you start to come back. So you come off run 6 into labour 6, and this is the goblet squat. So this is a typical squat movement where you're expected to get your underside of your thighs to parallel with the ground. For the men, it's a 16 kilo kettlebell, and you can hold that kettlebell any way you like, so as long as it's sort of in front of your body here. I opted for upside down. A lot of people flip the kettlebell and hold it upside down. This is one of those movements that if you are super conditioned, you can do all 60 reps in one go, but for mortals like me, you have to take a break after about 30-35 and then go again for the remainder. But apart from that, this one was uneventful and I was back out. So coming in after run 7 into labour 7, this is the plate weight front carry. So we have a 25 kilo rubberized bumper plate and 240 meters in which to carry it. All you have to do is hold it in front of your body. That's it. Now 240 meters is another 4 out and backs, sort of 8 lengths total, and that's quite a long way. And you soon realise that at about 3 runs in, your grip is starting to fail, and it's lots of readjusting as you go, trying to find a comfy way of holding this thing. And to be fair, there isn't really a good way to hold it, so just sort of linking your fingers and locking around it as best you can. In the end, I was trying to get my feet moving a little bit quicker. A lot of people just resign to walking it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I was just trying to save time, but ultimately I think I ended up walking about 80% of it. So coming in off run 8 into labour 8, it is the dumbbell push press. So this is where you have a pair of dumbbells, and they are 12.5 kilograms each for the men. And the idea is that you hold it at shoulder level, and you lock out, and then you touch the dumbbells on your shoulder. Now, this is one of those exercises that you are supposed to sort of use your legs for leg drive. Now, I was starting, as I was repping through them, I was realizing my leg drive was getting less and less, and I was just brute forcing them up, but that was causing extra fatigue in my shoulders, a complete sort of brain malfunction at this point. And this is one of those exercises where you start to not do the full movement, not because you're trying to cheat, but because you're tired and you're not paying attention. That certainly was true for me. The marshal in front of me was telling me quite a few times to make sure I locked out. So I'm quite limited by sort of my biomechanics. Sort of as I sort of straighten my arms to full extension, the dumbbells would be overlapping at the top, and similarly at the bottom, I'm not very flexible, so the dumbbells sometimes were a little bit shy, but they kept telling me and telling me to do it right, and I was doing my very best to conform to what they were saying. But apart from that, I was out into the next run without too much drama. So run 9 into labour station 9 is the bear crawls. Now, this is a terrible tale of how not to do bear crawls, okay? I've always sort of practiced my bear crawls in the gym on the strip of AstroTurf, right? It's hard to get wrong or get lost. When you're then in a big grassy field, you don't have any point of reference. You don't necessarily walk on your hands and feet looking that way, because your neck doesn't go up that much, and my sense of direction just went completely out the window. My head compass was all over the shop, which had me zigzagging. One of the things I also did notice, that as I was going backwards and forwards, is that people coming the other way also had their head down and couldn't see what they were doing, and on more than one occasion the referees had to shout for us to stop before we headbutted each other. That meant sort of interrupting your flow. I really struggled with these. In fact, I did one length out and one length back and thought I was done because it was that bad. As I stood up to leave, the lady said, "You've got another one, mate." And then another lady said, "You've just broken his heart." And she was right. So run 10 was into labour station 10, into the plate weight clean and press. So for the men, it was a 15 kilos rubberized plate weight again. And the idea is that you touch it on the ground and you hold it above your head. 60 reps of that. How hard could it be? It's pretty hard. After you've just done the bear crawls, yeah, your arms are starting to hum a little bit by this point, but it's at this point in the race, in your head, where you start to think, I've only got 2 stations left. I've only got 2 stations left. So you're just holding on now by the tips of your fingers. So run 11 into labour station 11, we have the overhead carry. So we have a 15 kilo plate weight, and we have 180 meters in which to travel. Now, after all of those overhead exercises that we've just done, this is enduring torture. Right, so it's just a race as to how long you can hold this thing above your head versus how fast you can travel across the ground. And that's exactly what it is. There are times when you can feel the weight slowly descending and your feet are getting faster, so you can get to the line to pop it down. And it's tough, and you do have to put it down a few times just to take that second for the blood to get back into your arms. So coming in off run 12, which feels fantastic because you've got no more running, you are faced with labour station 12, which is the devil's press. Now, if you've ever done a devil's press, you'll know it's a bit of an evil exercise. So it's 10 kilos per hand, 20 kilos total. And the idea is that these are on the floor. You do sort of a press up into standing, however that is, into overhead press, and it's 20 of these. Now, it feels like an enormous amount of work when you start, but you get through them relatively quickly, even if you're doing them slowly, if that makes sense. I was doing them slowly. I was running on fumes at this point. I really didn't have a lot left in me. And when you finish your 20th rep, you drop them down and you sprint over the finish line. And that's it. You pick up your Murray medal, you shake a couple of hands, and then you head off the track there to your supporters.
Got you on camera.
Okay, so that is the Deadly Dozen done. First impressions, initial reaction, having literally just come off the course, it's really tough. Mid-race, burpees to bear crawls, that bit's a bit grim, and you never really recover. You're always on constant recovery. It is a really tough race. I'd argue at points it's tougher than High Rocks. But I'm going to reflect on this on the drive home when I review the footage, and I'll be able to give it a nice, well-rounded review when I get home. All right, see you in a bit. So that was my race, and it is what it is. It was what it was. Now, my time was 57 minutes on the day. It's not blisteringly fast. The top guy was 44 minutes to sort of give you a comparison to where I was relative to him. But it's reflective of where I am in my training year. This was the only event I could get to, the September one. And September is a very busy month for me because this is my ultra marathon month. Now, I've got 3 ultra marathons. I've already done one. There's one in a couple of weeks' time. And a lot of my training up until this point has been geared toward ultra marathon running. So that is very slow running, but over a very long period of time. And it doesn't necessarily marry up with a hybrid fitness event like Deadly Dozen. But I've still been able to come and do it and get through it without a heart attack. And I think that brings me on to my next point. These types of event are very accessible to everyone. You may automatically assume that it's young, fit, athletic people that dominate all over the shop. For a start, the winner was in the 40 to 49 category, and he won by a mile. And I think there was probably more middle-aged people there than there was young people. So just think about that for a second. It's not your perception that is actually happening. And when I arrived there, there was a complete spectrum of people. Different heights, different builds, different ages, different genders. It was a complete mix. And they were all sort of pootling around in their own time. Ability doesn't really matter when you see everyone mixed together like that. Obviously, there'll always be winners and podiums, but for the great majority, they come there to sort of have a go and test themselves. And it is a very testing event, but it's still very accessible to a very amateur level of athlete. So if you're looking for something that's very testing, but very accessible, then this is one of those things that you could sign up to and see how you get on. It doesn't matter if you go through it slowly on your first go. It doesn't matter if your time isn't what you expected it to be, like mine, because I know I'm going to come back at a later date when my training suits this particular event and smash the doors off the time I got on Saturday. So let's talk a little bit now about Jason Curtis and Deadly Dozen as an event and why it's just a little bit of genius. Now, there are 600 plus running tracks in the country. Each of these is a prospective venue for a Deadly Dozen event, right? So they could potentially put them in any one of these running tracks. The equipment can be sourced at a local gym, or it can be loaded onto a relatively small van and driven to any of these sites. It's low cost in terms of logistics. You don't need skiers, you don't need massive trucks, you don't need forklifts, you don't need all of this stuff to move an event from site to site to site. And because And because it's all the dumbbells, the kettlebells, the plate weights, you don't need to worry about the weather. It could absolutely leather it down and the competition could still go ahead. So there's lots of really clever things about how this has been put together. Subtle things as well about having some of the exercises alternate. So you've got the ones that run up and down and the ones that do reps and the ones that run up and down, they alternate on the course. And that was only noticeable to me when I flew the drone over and looked down on it from above. So yes, it's really clever how it's all been put together, and the potential for expansion is unbelievable because you can literally pop these up anywhere. And I think there are big plans to push this particular race franchise global. And I suspect that will happen before too long, a couple of years down the line, and this will be all over the place. In all of my race day videos and review videos, I like to have a little think constructively about what I would like to see in the future, like improvements perhaps. And it's not a knock of what they have now, it's just a tiny little adjustment here and there makes a big difference for consumers and customers like me, certainly when we're considering coming back as a repeat customer, for example. One of the things that was noticeable straight away was the start point seemed a little bit bleak, like there wasn't enough going on at the start. It needs hype. You need to be pumped up before your race. Hyrox do this very well with the tunnel, the TVs, the music. I think Deadly Dozen could do something similar. It doesn't have to be exactly like Hyrox. They can figure that out themselves. And that brings me on to my next point. The waves being so tiny, that feels you feel a bit exposed and a bit on show. When you're in a bigger group of people, you feel like you blend in and you're not on display as much. I think slightly bigger waves would bring slightly more spectators, which would bring slightly bigger atmosphere. So there's potential for that in the future. Obviously, there's logistics involved. You'd need more weights, you'd need more volunteers, etc. But it's a potential way to enhance the experience for people like me. And one last thing, and this is a tiny little thing, the fantastic Murray medal, which is front and center on my rack of medals, has no reference to the date or the location. And this isn't a problem when you've only got one, but if I was to do as many of these as say I've done Hyrox events, I would have 10 identical medals. And I would like to think that they could find a way to make the medals individual to each of the events. Again, a tiny little adjustment would make a big difference. I'd like to see the patches as well as part of the finishing package. That would be fantastic. You get more patches on bags and more exposure as these Built for Athletes backpacks just wander around the world. It would be really cool to see that as well. So I think that's about it. These were just tiny little spoonfuls of constructive criticism, and I hope that they are taken in the vein that I am expressing them. So apart from that, the event was spectacular. It is tough, but it's that good kind of tough. I mean, we're signing up to these things because it's tough, not because it's easy. And I think a lot of people are on the same page. We appreciate toughness because when you complete something that is difficult, that is tough, that is 12 stations of grind, when you finish it, you feel fantastic. For me, my future, I'm definitely going to be signing up to at least one, if not two next year. The one in Birmingham, because it's the nearest to me, and the one at probably Horsepath Track, where I've done X-Endurance stuff before now. So all of that is on the cards. I very much enjoyed this enough to come back and have a go, and I certainly need to come back when I'm hybrid fitness trained a little bit sharper, that I can come back and completely smash that 57 minutes into the wind. Okay guys, that's the end of the video. I want to end it by saying thank you to Jason and his band of volunteers. It was a great day. To you guys, the potential people that might want to sign up for a competition like Deadly Dozen, my advice to you is just get it done. I am recommending Deadly Dozen because it is an awesome day out. It's an awesome event to be a part of, and you will feel very proud of yourself when you finish it. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Please give the channel a subscribe. There's a button here or somewhere on YouTube. I would love for a few more subscribers to come my way. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video soon. Mart out.